After having to follow the events of Jeepers Creepers 3, there is a high possible chance for us to see a fourth installment in the Jeepers Creepers franchise, and joining me here today to discuss Jeepers Creepers 4 is my good friend Danny Ray Champ. As Danny, I wanted to talk to you about Jeepers Creepers 4 and how you would personally feel about Jeepers Creepers 4 having to be the final movie within the Jeepers Creepers franchise. Now, I do feel as if this movie at some given point will happen, but I do think that once it does happen, it ought to tell the conclusive story of Trish having to get her revenge on the Creeper. Now, what I wanted to ask you is, what are your overall thoughts on a possible Jeepers Creepers 4 film? How would you tell the story in completing the narrative, in having to look at everything that's happened within the film itself, in correcting the mistakes of Jeepers Creepers 3, but also telling a good solid story involving the Creeper, explaining more or less of his backgrounds, and just more or less finishing off the story that once took place during Jeepers Creepers 1, and I wanted to get your overall thoughts as to how you would create Jeepers Creepers 4, and what are your overall expectations as we go into a fourth movie?
I don't see them being able to come up with a legitimate origin for the Creeper that will make everybody happy. Now, on to my opinion about how they can do the new movie. I feel like them getting together, Trish getting together everybody that's been affected by the Creeper to fight him, I think that's could make a good movie. But at the same time, I feel like there's been some other movies that follow that sort of same plot line, so it's gonna feel a bit overused, maybe, in my opinion, with the way they're sort of bringing together the plot into the fourth movie. But I definitely think it's going to be a fun movie. I think seeing Trish again is going to be nice, considering we haven't seen her. Well, we saw her in the last movie, but she wasn't a big part of it. But I think we're seeing her again after 2 installments of her not really being a main player is going to be fun. I definitely think that this should be the last movie. I don't think they should continue.
Why is that? I mean, because they can go in so many different directions with this. Given the fact that Jeepers Creepers 3 told a very piss poor story, and I think a lot of us agreed universally as fans that Jeepers Creepers 3 was really bad. I just feel like they need to capitalize on what the Creeper is, because they kind of gave you like a little hint as to who he was or what he's about, but only if you touched his, his hand that he was searching for throughout the whole film. And what I really hated about the entire film was the fact that we had 2 characters that were able to get an idea as to where the Creeper came from, what his origins are, but were never revealed. So going into the fourth film, do you believe that his entire history ought to be revealed and exposed to the audience, and then capitalize on possibly killing him off or saving him? And a part of that question is, would you rather conserve the Creeper and allow him to once again be the victor of the story, or would you definitively kill him off and just thus ending the saga that is of Jeepers Creepers?
Well, first, on the part about the whole thing with the hand, I definitely feel like that was a out of nowhere plot point, in my opinion. It just didn't feel like it fit that movie. Now, if they were to go with that plot point into the fourth movie, if they don't just have them fighting the Creeper in the fourth movie, they should more or less have the 2 people who touched the hand, Danny and the other woman. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name right now.
The detective is dead, so you
sorry,
really
yeah, he's dead. He's dead. Sorry, I forgot about that. But have the movie start off with that woman being like, so when I touched his hand, this I saw. Then go into the backstory about what it is, and have that movie be the backstory. And then have the next movie after that just have it be like them fighting the Creeper the entire movie.
So you would go as far as to say that you would want to see a Jeepers Creepers 5, as you implied, because you would rather see his origin story play out in a film and then thus concluding it with a part 5. Is that what I'm hearing?
If the next movie is them going to be fighting the Creeper and only fighting the Creeper in that movie, I think that should be the last installment. However, if they do go with the route with the origin story, I definitely think there needs to be an origin story movie, and then they need to go into them fighting the Creeper.
You wouldn't agree in having both an origin story and a conclusive story take place in one film? You would rather see them both kind of go like hand in hand as separate movies? Because I think that with this upcoming film, the way Jeepers Creepers 3 performed, you know, budget-wise, they didn't really have that much of a budget to work off of, and the film did gross in surprisingly a good amount, but, you know, universally, it was hailed as one of the worst Jeepers Creepers films, if not one of the worst horror movies ever, and just in their overall poor execution and the way they handled things. So I think that I understand your approach in the idea that they need to reveal more, but I also feel like, with that being said, if they give you a story, you know, they have to also wrap that story up in tying in all the films, because surprisingly enough, Jeepers Creepers 3 was a prequel to all of the films, in which it took place in between 1 and 2, and thus tying in all 3 films. But I feel like with the 4th film, if you're going to introduce Trish, it'll only be logical for all of the events to transpire after the 2nd film, because if you can recall, we had, you know, the events of Jeepers Creepers 2, the end, take place exactly 23 years after the events of the Creeper hunting down the students in the bus. And we saw with, you know, the father who was standing there with his harpoon, he even said, give or take a few days, it's going to take just about roughly a few hours or so, maybe a couple of days for the Creeper to wake back up, and then that's when we're going to have to stop him again. So they know about the history of him coming back every 23 years, but do you think that, in your opinion, they ought to just conclude that story with adding in his origin and the final battle in the 4th film? Or do you think that it's possible, just like Wrong Turn, just like Hatchet, just like so many other films, for them to continue and thus going into a 5th film?
I feel like I said when I said at the beginning, I feel like no matter what they choose to be the origin story of the Creeper, it's not gonna be good enough. Like, because I remember me and you a long time ago, we were discussing this, and like there were so many things thrown out. Oh, he's a demon, he's an alien, and those stuff like that is just too obvious. Oh, he's an experiment gone wrong of some ancient society that was channeling dark magic, or it just, I feel like with whatever they do, it's not going to be good enough. So I want them to take whatever that is and just do the most they can on it, instead of it just being like, oh, hey, the Creeper is actually a demon, oh, he's an alien, oh, he's an experiment gone wrong, just like in a passing like scene, maybe a 5-minute scene. So I'd much rather have them just expand on it, try to make it as good as they can, and then just have them go into fighting the Creeper.
So would you say at the end of the film, would you have it to where the Creeper lives or the Creeper dies? Because just like all classic characters like Michael, Jason, Freddy, Pinhead, you know, Chucky, we had cult classics where, you know, the boogeyman or the monster or the demon, you know, lives on and they continue on with what they do. Would you say that it would be fitting for them to definitively kill off the Creeper and thus concluding the entirety of the story? Because as many people don't, you know, or as many others are unaware, the actions of Victor Salva are what really affect this film. If it were not for him and his actions behind what he did many years ago by being a convicted pedophile, going to jail, doing all that jazz, he is the founder, he is the creator of Jeepers Creepers, and I feel like his name alone tarnishes the reputation of what Jeepers Creepers is. And it's very unfortunate because for a monster film, this has been one of the most creative films, I think, that has ever been introduced in the world of horror, by having this entity, this Creeper, you know, have stashed bodies in his house of horrors, and then we saw, you know, how all of a sudden it begins to wake back up and come back every 23 years just for it to feast. And I think that it's a very unique concept, but with Victor Salva's past and his reputation, I feel like it kind of demoralizes the film. So would you have this be the final film, in your opinion, looking at it from a standpoint to where they fight him? Would you have them kill the Creeper off, or would you have the Creeper live on by the end?
Since I've started watching horror movies, the one thing I've always hated is like the open-ending movies, where like, there's this last scene where the bad guy is just sort of standing there looking at our heroes, or it's just, I just don't like open-ended endings pretty much, and I feel like they should kill the Creeper. However, if they were to kill him, I would want something to where it teaches a lesson about, like, in that world anyway, how there are things that people don't understand, there are bad things in this world, and let the existence of the Creeper and his death be a warning to the rest of humanity to keep an eye out for those evil things.
I definitely, I would want to see the conclusion of this entire story, because it's been very interesting how this creature has been alive for possibly centuries, and we saw what it was able to do, you know, via consuming its victims and, you know, taking part of their bodies and making their victims' bodies a part of his own, and it's pretty terrifying, you know, as a concept. But we would like to know your thoughts down in the comment section below. How do you guys feel about Jeepers Creepers 4? What kind of story would you guys tell? If you have any other opinion as to how you would, you know, allow this film to be either the conclusive, you know, movie in the series or have it continue, let us know down below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, guys. Turn on all notifications. That way you guys get all of my content on your mobile devices and on your desktops. If you guys want to watch more Jeepers Creepers content, I will leave a playlist link down in the description box for you guys to go on ahead and check out. Tons of discussions, tons of Jeepers Creepers content. And again, if you guys haven't already, check out Danny Ray Champ's channel and his Twitter. I will leave his handles down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Tune back in for more, and we'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Have a great day, everybody.